So is rental real estate really passive income? Well, guess what? Yes and no. Hang in here, I'm gonna tell you what the difference is and why and how you can actually do it more passively. Okay, so all the time you hear people talk about passive income, right? And especially with real estate, is it really passive? And that's a big debate. Some people say it's passive, some people say it's anything but passive. I'm gonna tell you here, it actually can be passive or more passive, but there's one strategy in particular I think is a better way to do it if you truly want passive income. And it's the strategy that most people don't know about. So let's dig into that right now. Okay, so first and foremost, what is passive income? Because here's the thing, technically speaking, real estate investing or rental income is passive income by an accounting definition. The tax IRS rules call rental real estate income passive income. However, if you've had any kind of real estate properties, especially ones that you've personally managed, they are anything but passive. Semi-passive at best, but they're pretty much an active stream of income. I have a lot of friends, they have wholesaling businesses, they do fix and flips and things like that. They literally have a very active business that's anything but passive, right? So that doesn't really qualify. Just because you have real estate investments in your portfolio doesn't mean it really feels passive. But there are some ways to make it more passive. I believe that passive income, for me personally, I believe that passive income is something where your money works harder for you, so you don't have to work so hard for it, right? It's where your money does the talking and the walking, right? That's what it does. So I like passive income to be something that actually is hands-off. I don't have to be a part of it. But the truth is, if you do what most people do with real estate, they go and they find some property in their same town, maybe it's down the street, maybe a few blocks away or whatever, or the other side of town, hopefully the good side of town, right? Not the bad side. But you have a property over there, but then you're dealing with the tenants, the toilets, and the trash. You're dealing with all the issues that come up, right? Even if you have other handymen going over to repair stuff, still you're the one having to go and get on the phone and call. You have to be the one that renews the leases on the rental agreements that you give out. You have to make sure that if they move out and you have to get a new tenant, you have to find a new tenant and screen them and check credit reports and all this kind of stuff. It's just a pain in the butt to do it all yourself. I realized this firsthand because when I first started doing real estate, I thought, you know what, I'll save that, 50 or $100 a month. I'll save that and I'll just go and do it myself. I'll pay myself. I'll save myself $100 because I was that cheap, right? The truth is, I was a horrible property manager. I only did like cleaning checks maybe like once or twice a year. And the truth is, I should have had a hint when I went to those people's places where they had lived before, their apartment, and it was horrible. So of course they moved into my place and they treated it like garbage because they literally had garbage everywhere. Heck, I'll tell you, even when I first walked into that property, I walked in after I finally evicted them, and it took a while to get them out, but they finally did. It was the middle of winter. The first time I walked through my property was when somebody had already seen the for sale sign. I hadn't walked through it yet. So I told them, I said, listen, you just barely called me. I barely put the sign up, and then you said you're looking to buy it. Well, I haven't cleaned this property out. I remember unlocking the door, walking in, and all of a sudden I see like the carpets are just so dirty and trash. There was holes in the wall. I don't know what they did, but there's like holes in the wall. There's pizza frozen upside down, stuck to the carpet. And even then, just everything was broken. They stole a lawnmower. They stole all the stuff that I actually left for them to use. They took it all. They took it all away. The only thing that was left really in good shape was a doghouse. And just so you know, I didn't allow for dogs. And they had a very sturdy doghouse we could not tear down, but the rest of the house was falling apart. I literally was in tears while I'm walking through with these potential buyers who obviously didn't buy it. I had to go through and get 1-800-GOT-JUNK to haul it all out and get everything away and get it all cleaned up. Spent probably a good $1,000 to clean it up to then sell it and barely break even. That is not passive. That is not passive at all. I've learned my lesson. And so what I do instead is I use what are called turnkey real estate companies. I love turnkey real estate. Why? How does it work? Turnkey real estate companies actually find the properties for you. Now, most of these companies will be at a certain location, right? They might be in a place like maybe they're in Davenport, Iowa. Maybe they're going to be in Birmingham, Alabama. Maybe they're going to be in Missouri, like Kansas City, Missouri or something like that, or Oklahoma. Maybe they'll be in Indianapolis, Indiana, or wherever they might be. Some of them are very location specific. Some of them might do things more nationwide. Now, I'll tell you, if you get somebody who's more location specific, they probably will have some better options, but they will have very limited options for you, and you don't really get to diversify because it's all in one type of region. Many people ask me, they're like, Chris, isn't real estate risky? What if it goes down? And my answer is, well, down in which market? Because there are literally hundreds and hundreds of markets in the United States that you could be a part of. Just because one goes down doesn't mean the other will. So what I personally like to do is, if I'm going to do that, if I have somebody who's very location specific, I'm going to use maybe them. Maybe I buy 1 or 2 properties with them, but then I might buy 1 or 2 properties in another location too. So then I'm a little bit more spread out. This might require you to have at least $100,000 or more for those down payments. So just be aware, if you're going to try to buy multiple properties like this, I do like being geographically diverse, and I like to make sure that I have at least 1 or 2 in each area, just so that you can use and try out that turnkey company to see if they really are good. Now, the turnkey company, here's the other thing they do. They not only help you find the property, so you don't have to go searching on MLS and things like that. They say, here are the properties, and here are the numbers. They'll even tell you, based on current mortgage rates and expenses, some of our estimates, they'll say, this is how much money you should be making per month after you pay the property manager. Because guess what? They not only help you find the property, they help you buy it, they help you, get the renters in place because they actually property manage it for you. They do all of the work. You are literally the one that's collecting the checks. So I love paying a property manager for that kind of stuff, where I can now buy a property anywhere in the country. By the way, I live in the western half of the United States. Everything in the western half of the United States really is kind of crappy for rental markets. But when you go out to the central or Midwest or maybe the Southeast, much better selection of properties that can make you better returns with less money out of pocket. So I use these guys to help me find these properties, help me close on them by getting the mortgage in place and everything else, and then they property manage. They deal with the tenants, they deal with all the issues and things like that. I don't even have to hear about it. The truth is, I don't even know my renters' names. I don't even know the tenants' names. Not because I'm a jerk, it's just because I'm not dealing with them. I don't know who they are really. I know I have the rental agreement for my own records, but that's it. I don't deal with all that stuff. And the thing that I love is that, of course, every year, see, here's the one problem. I was not good at enforcing the rules. These guys enforce the rules. They make sure they do credit checks. They make sure they're finding people. If you find a good turnkey company, that's key, right? They'll find good quality tenants. But on top of that, they also help you renew every year, because the thing that was hard for me was asking to bump up rent the next year. Because again, I'm a nice guy. I don't like to be the one that's trying to be the bad guy by trying to charge them more money. These companies have no problem. It's just the thing they do in business all the time. They'll say, hey, it's another year. Rents have gone up on average 5%. We'll only bump yours up 4%, which that doesn't sound like much. But when it comes to compare to your mortgage payment, that can actually increase your returns by sometimes double. So it can increase your returns really well each time you do that. I love using turnkey real estate. Now I'll give you a warning here. The biggest problem you might have is the property management. So you want to make sure that if you find a good turnkey company, and you can just Google turnkey real estate companies, you want to make sure they actually have a good reputation for property management. If they don't, this would be your biggest problem, because if they don't handle those issues, you're going to have to handle the issues, and now it's not passive, it's active. So as a recap here, like turnkey companies can be great, but make sure they have good reputation. A lot of our clients, sometimes they wonder, where do we find these turnkey companies? How do I know which ones are good? A lot of times we screen them out for our own clients, so a lot of times our clients will even hire us to have access to deals like this. They'll say, hey, who's actually reputable? Who could we trust? Doesn't mean it's guaranteed. Doesn't mean that it's always going to be bump free. I'll just tell you this, from owning turnkey rentals myself over the last really 6 or 7 years, I'll tell you from my own experience is that, yes, it's way easier to manage my own properties, but there can still be issues. But usually the issues if they don't do their job on the property management side, or the people that they find to do property management for them that they outsource to may not do a good job. Luckily, a lot of the times those companies will have a backup option so that you can still find a good property management company. But I like a good reputation. You can Google turnkey companies, or you can find somebody else who already has done that, who's already kind of created and nurtured that kind of reputable list over the years like we have, right? And so that's one thing we can do. You can always go to moneyripples.com. I would do this first. Even before reaching out to us, I would go and take the passive income calculator. First and foremost, we want to make sure we can actually make you a decent amount of return. If that number is at least $15,000, then we should definitely be talking. If not, maybe not so much. Because here's the thing, guys, is that right now turnkey real estate isn't as good because interest rates have been higher. Now, luckily, we've been starting to see a little bit easing on the mortgage rates, and that can actually increase your cash flow more. So they can be good, but they might be more longer term investments where the cash flow is not as great up front, but it gets better as time goes on because they raise those rents. So the good thing is if you can find a good turnkey company that does the right work, does a good job, especially if it's already been curated, that kind of list for you, makes it a lot simpler. So go to do that passive income calculator at moneyripples.com. And then if it's at least $15,000, then let's talk. Let's just see if you actually qualify to work with us to see if we can actually give you access to our list, and not just turnkey real estate properties, guys, but even things that are truly more passive things like lending, where you can do lending real estate deals. It could be syndications, it could be like apartments, self-storage. Although those are not great lately, they're getting better. You got things like that. You got oil and gas investments. You got business partnerships, like franchises, like car wash businesses. You got raw land and things like that. So many different ways you can make money in real estate beyond just doing these rentals. And those can actually feel like true passive income, where you're not having to always manage the property manager, so to speak, right? So that's my thing. If you want true passive income in real estate, it's actually doing those kind of investments that require more money up front. If you don't have money, you probably won't create a passive investment. It's going to require time and energy. But if you've got cash, and I'd say if you have at least $150,000 of cash that you could be using to invest, now you've got some great options to create real, true passive income. So again, go to moneyripples.com, try that passive income calculator right now.